Hey, welcome back to Clean Cut, where we can talk about the truth about just about anything, as long as we use logic and common sense. This season, we're returning to the topic of the Psalms and their meaning. Now, a brief disclaimer before getting into this psalm. The Psalms will be numbered differently in different translations of the Bible. This is a very, very old discrepancy, and to help clear things up, I'll be explaining what number the psalm has in the Douay-Rheims Bible and in the Revised Standard Version. However, the episodes themselves will list psalm numbers as they're given in the Douay-Rheims Bible. Sorry if this is confusing. Anyway, this is Psalm 67 in the Douay-Rheims Bible, but Psalm 68 in the RSV. Unto the end, a psalm of a canticle for David himself, a worship song of David. Let God arise, and let his enemies be scattered, and let them that hate him flee from before his face. As smoke vanisheth, so let them vanish away. As wax melteth before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of God. A prayer for God to rise up and defeat his enemies in an instant. Some of them would run away the moment they see that God is opposing them, and those who stay behind and fight would die as if melted with fire. Again, the fire imagery when describing God is a very common one in ancient Hebrew texts, because, after all, he led their ancestors through the desert with a pillar of fire. And let the just feast, and rejoice before God, and be delighted with gladness. Sing ye to God, sing a psalm to his name, make a way for him who ascendeth upon the west. The Lord is his name. Rejoice ye before him, but the wicked shall be troubled at his presence. The faithful should rejoice and sing when God returns, while the unfaithful and evil should be worried. The image of someone ascending from the west is probably meant to differentiate God from the sun and moon, which rise in the east. It's Christian tradition that Jesus would also rise from the east, based on his words in Matthew 24:27. However, the Psalms predate the birth of Jesus, so that's something to keep in mind. Who is the father of orphans, and the judge of widows? God in his holy place. God who maketh men of one manner to dwell in a house, who bringeth out them that were bound in strength, in like manner them that provoke, that dwell in sepulchres. Even if a person has no human father, they can always have God for their father. Even if a widow can't get justice in other ways, God will provide it in time. Men of one manner refers to people who share a common system of beliefs and agree to behave with self-discipline so that they can live together without harming each other. Them that were bound and them that provoke are two different kinds of slaves, the kind that are kept in bondage by force, and the kind that have been enslaved by giving in to sin, and have become possessed or insane because of it. God is able to liberate slaves of both kinds, freeing the people of Israel from Egypt, as he did in the Old Testament, and driving the demons out of a possessed man who lived in a tomb, as Jesus did in the New Testament. O God, when thou didst go forth in the sight of thy people, when thou didst pass through the desert, the earth was moved, and the heavens dropped at the presence of the God of Sinai, at the presence of the God of Israel. Another reference to the pillar of fire that guided the Israelites through the desert. God is being respected for the powerful effects that his presence and miraculous actions caused during that journey. Thou shalt set aside for thy inheritance a free rein, O God, and it was weakened, but thou hast made it perfect. This verse isn't implying that God inherits anything. Thy inheritance means the things that people inherit from God due to being his heirs. Free rein, taken at face value, seems to imply prosperity and good weather for growing food. As we've discussed in the past, the making of rain is one of the more looked-for ways to use miraculous powers to bring about prosperity. However, God did better than that while his people were journeying through the desert, providing them with fresh bread every morning, manna which could fill people's stomachs, providing for their physical needs, but went bad within a day if it wasn't used, ensuring that the people recognized their dependence on God. This verse could very easily be a reference to manna, though it's not stated explicitly. In it shall thy animals dwell. In thy sweetness, O God, thou hast provided for the poor. In it refers to either the sweetness mentioned later in this verse, or the free rein from the previous one. In either case, this means that people's animals can live safely in the mercy of God, and that this can even help the poor. The Lord shall give the word to them that preach good tidings with great power. God provides evangelists and other good preachers with the words they should speak, as he told the apostles in Matthew 10:19-20. The King of powers is of the beloved and the beauty of the house shall divide spoils. The King of powers is God. He's the king of those he loves, and especially of those who love him back, the faithful. Beauty of the house refers to a beautiful person who stays at home, a wife or wives of the faithful, who benefit from the great gifts that God provides to their husbands in exchange for their love and faithfulness. If you sleep among the midst of lots, you shall be as the wings of a dove covered with silver, and the hinder parts of her back with the paleness of gold. The midst of lots refers to times when people cast lots, as the Roman soldiers did over the clothes of Jesus. In short, it's a description that implies being surrounded by enemies who feel completely unthreatened by you. This verse, therefore, is saying that people who remain calm, even when surrounded by dangerous enemies, will be given great protection by God, like a bird that can fly away from all its enemies, and will also increase in value, as if they were being covered in gold and silver. When he that is in heaven appointeth kings over her, they shall be whited with snow in Selman. When God himself appoints leaders for his faithful to follow, they can help the faithful to be purified like the whitest snow. Selman was a tall mountain with a snow-capped peak, which is why its snow is being referred to with this comparison. The mountain of God is a fat mountain, a curdled mountain, a fat mountain. The dwelling place of God is full of fine food and prosperity. Fat here means prosperous, and curdled is a reference to the curdling of milk, which prepares it for making cheese, a food that used to be much pricier than it is today. Why suspect, ye curdled mountains, a mountain in which God is well pleased to dwell? For there the Lord shall dwell unto the end. Do you suppose that God would live in any place but the best? God chose to live forever in the best place, which we now call heaven. The chariot of God is attended by 10,000s, thousands of them that rejoice. The Lord is among them in Sinai, in the holy place. A chariot was a horse-drawn vehicle of the time, faster than a wagon, but not made for carrying much cargo. They were commonly used in war, and sometimes by people rich enough to own horses, but who didn't need to use them for shipments of goods all the time. It was something of a minor luxury to have one, therefore. This verse is saying that when God passes by in his vehicle, tens of thousands of people, or perhaps angels, are always present to cheer and celebrate. Thou hast ascended on high, thou hast led captivity captive, thou hast received gifts in men, yea, for those also that do not believe, the dwelling of the Lord God. Blessed be the Lord, day by day. The God of our salvation will make our journey prosperous to us. Led captivity captive implies that God either prevents his faithful from being captured or imprisoned, or frees them from captivity if they have been captured. The process of leading someone captive was usually done to formerly powerful people who'd been conquered. They were either carried in a vehicle or bound and forced to walk along with the person who'd captured them, often walking behind them in humiliated helplessness. This verse says that God has conquered the very concept of captivity or enslavement in this same way, so that his faithful have no need to fear being imprisoned. God has also received his faithful, and even unbelievers, as gifts, and because of this he'll give prosperity to the faithful. Our God is the God of salvation, and of the Lord. Of the Lord are the issues from death. But God shall break the heads of his enemies, the hairy crown of them that walk on in their sins. God offers salvation, and is the only one who can invariably save people from death, but some people continue on in their sins, and no matter how powerful they may be, it won't protect them from the consequences of that choice. The Lord said, I will turn them from Bashan, I will turn them into the depth of the sea, that thy foot may be dipped in the blood of thy enemies, the tongue of thy dogs be red with the same. Bashan is Bashan, a fruitful area in modern-day Syria, historically lived in by the Amorites, and the sea is typically used in ancient writings like this to represent chaotic, inhospitable conditions. God is saying he'll drive his enemies out of rich lands and into chaos and poverty, ultimately leading to the triumph of the faithful over their enemies as well. They have seen thy goings, O God, the goings of my God, of my King who is in his sanctuary. The enemies of God have started to see how he does things. Princes went before, joined with singers, in the midst of young damsels playing on timbrels. This is a description of the people who follow God when he appears in his glory, starting with his heirs, the princes of God, probably the faithful saints. Young women are there too, playing on timbrels, a small drum or tambourine carried in the hand. In the churches bless ye God the Lord, from the fountains of Israel. The churches that worship God originate in Israel, where Jesus and the apostles would later begin their ministry. There is Benjamin a youth in ecstasy of mind. The princes of Judah are their leaders, the princes of Zabulon, the princes of Naphtali. Benjamin was the youngest of the sons of Jacob, and Zabulon and Naphtali, also called Zebulun and Naphtali, were his 10th and 6th sons respectively. These sons of Jacob led the group who follows the Lord. Command thy strength, O God. Confirm, O God, what thou hast wrought in us. From thy temple in Jerusalem kings shall offer presents to thee. Please make sure that the strength that God gives us will never leave us, so that the kings of other nations will come to Jerusalem to worship God. Rebuke the wild beasts of the reeds, the congregation of bulls with the kine of the people, who seek to exclude them who are tried with silver. Scatter thou the nations that delight in wars. A plea for God to prevent both animals and evil people from getting in the way of the faithful. Ambassadors shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands to God. Sing to God, ye kingdoms of the earth. Sing ye to the Lord. Sing ye to God. Non-Jewish people will be converted and worship God. Who mounteth above the heaven of heavens, to the east. Behold, he will give to his voice the voice of power. Give ye glory to God for Israel, his magnificence, and his power is in the clouds. God will give his announcer a voice strong enough to reach everyone, telling them to glorify God. God is wonderful in his saints. The God of Israel is he who will give power and strength to his people. Blessed be God. Not that God is less wonderful without his saints, but that what God does for the saints helps to show us the goodness of God by giving them the strength and guidance they need to accomplish the tasks he's given them. Then the psalm ends with one small line of praise. This is a long psalm of praise, describing how amazing and good God is, and how deserving he is of praise in considerable detail, using a rather large number of references and comparisons that would probably have been very familiar to the people of the time. There are some pleas scattered throughout it, but, as with some of the other psalms we've been examining recently, they tend to be general pleas that could be said by any of the faithful at just about any period in history. That's all for now, so keep asking questions, and thanks for watching.